Hey everybody, this is Perch, and this is one of those areas that I wish you could solve, but it's really hard. I get it. And that's when you don't like a comic, or I don't like a comic, or whatever, and we find it ludicrous. You want to joke about it. It's funny. Or maybe it opens itself up for obvious jokes. This week you have the Avengers, it's the Enter the Phoenix tournament. And I mean, on the surface, what you've got are a bunch of the Phoenix Force has somehow come to Earth, decided to have a little tournament. Now, granted, at least in this case, they're not like killing kittens and playing board games and doing fashion shows. But in this tournament, they're actually fighting ish, not completely. But the whole concept is pretty ludicrous. And you've got all kinds of, you have Hyperion on there, you have Black Panther, you have Echo, you have Namor, you have Moon Girl. I mean, you have the orb. It's a silly premise. The whole thing is silly. So you can't take it that seriously, right? This isn't like the Korvac saga. This isn't one of those epic, things. But you're kind of your gut reaction if you're reading this is probably to make some jokes about it, to not take it seriously. And yet there may be other people reading this thing that are like, yeah, this is what I've been asking for. I'm a casual reader of comics. This looks like fun. It kind of reminds me of some of the quippy Joss Whedon stuff. And I'm good with this. This is fine. And those two forces collide. And a lot of weird kind of gatekeeping stuff starts to crop up. There's a lot of different, and you really see this, for example, with like the X-Men fan base, where you have different websites that are dedicated to doing reviews and everything else. You have like that with the Xavier Files, and they're X-Men fans. I believe they're X-Men fans. They're legitimate. They like certain things. They know what they like, and they're huge fans of, say, Excalibur. And I don't like Excalibur. Now, in my world, I can coexist with these people, no problem. They like something, I dislike something. I don't feel insulted when they dislike what I like, and I don't really care. I mean, if they're saying this is the greatest comic in the world, and I don't think it is, I don't lose my shit. I can deal with it like a grown adult human. But the same is definitely not true in return. For example, I've said, hey, look at this ludicrous panel here. And I know that for a fact that the Ten of Swords little reviews that I did irritated the hell out of that crew, to the point that the guy blocked me on Twitter, and he just angry, super angry about the whole thing. I find that it's just pointless and sad, because I think that we should be able to emotionally love or emotionally laugh at certain things that go on in comics. I don't think it needs to turn into World War III. Again, this Avengers comic, folks, they're having this fight of the Phoenix, and there's this bit where Nighthawk and Black Panther are arguing. And they're both they're trying to one-up each other because Nighthawk got himself installed as an ambassador to Wakanda, and he's secretly working kind of under the direction of Phil Coulson, who's got to deal with Mephisto, and so there's all these shenanigans going on, and he's like, I'm putting taxes on your schools, and Black Panther's like, well, I have lobbied to make sure you don't put taxes on my schools, and he's like, well, I've declared your schools socialist crazy pants town schools, and Black Panther's like, yeah, well, the whole thing is ridiculous, and I'm reading this, I'm like, this is an Avengers comic, and they're having like a civics one-up argument, but even that the civics that they're saying don't make a lot of sense. It's kind of like a fifth grader has kind of watched some CNN and kind of gotten some terms and shoved it out there on the page. That's how it reads. And how am I supposed to look at this? Am I supposed to look at this as serious? Well, no. Am I supposed to look at this as a fun, lighthearted kind of nod to online arguments, or what am I supposed to do? I don't know. I don't enjoy it. But at the same time, there are people who do. There are people who right now are on Facebook calling this the greatest issue of the Avengers and the most powerful event, the one that's excited them the most in all the lands. And this isn't new. Do you remember, if you read comics in the 70s and 80s, you'd see people writing in to the letters page, and you'd see these breathless kind of, this issue of the Fantastic Four had me on the edge of my seat. I couldn't believe what happened when Frankie decided to become a Herald of Galactus. It was the most stunning moment in my entire life. And I remember even, young me, was thinking, there's no way in hell a real human being wrote this. This is not. This is Marvel. Like this, somebody got super high at Marvel and is like writing these fake letters in. They're kind of over the top hype shill for this stuff. I mean, there's no way this is real. But as I've gotten older, I've come to realize, yeah, it probably is real because there's always something for somebody, and good for you if there is. And what I try and do both online and videos like this and everything else is I on one hand, I don't want to be just milk toast, have no opinion about anything. I do have opinions and I'll put them out there. At the same time, I don't want you to feel like, these opinions are the new law of the land. It's always where I think a lot of YouTubers get it wrong is they they've got hardened opinions on things, and damn it, you've got to take their opinion or you're bad somehow. And that goes back to kind of the Xavier files and sites like that, where it's like they loved Excalibur, and if you think that writing is junk and it doesn't work for you, you're wrong. You're a wrong, hateful, awful, bigoty person for not liking it. And it's just it's gatekeeping. It absolutely is gatekeeping, but it's dumb gatekeeping because there is no gate. It'd be like a bunch of people putting up gates with no fences. There's just a bunch of gates in this empty field, and like it's like I can just walk around this gate. Like it doesn't matter. Like you've got 450 followers on Twitter. I mean, none of this matters. I mean, frankly, the whole follower count itself is junk. I mean, you can have 150,000 followers. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, I look at all the people online who have social media accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're bozos. They're nuts. They just say dumb things all the time. Nobody needs to respect any of that. Just the fact that you have, whether you have one follower or 100,000 followers, that does not equate to your IQ or whether you're making a reasonable point or not. It just means somewhere along the line you hooked a bunch of people into following you, which goes to this channel as well, by the way. There's a lot of awesome YouTube channels that have like 10 subscribers that do way better stuff than I do. And I don't know how I got here. Thank you for everybody who did subscribe. I appreciate it. But the fact that you subscribed, it doesn't mean like you signed some kind of contract that you have to agree with me, or that anything I say is somehow made more elevated or valuable than anybody else's. I think that's dumb. And I do think there's a weird kind of cliquey mentality within comic fans that they you've got to believe the group think, or you're somehow goofy and wrong. I don't know. All I know is when you get a comic and it's got the orb, and the orb is fighting Valkyrie over Phoenix powers, and Nighthawk and Black Panther debating civic politics, you're a stronger person than I am if you don't find that just absolutely absurd. It is absurd. And frankly, and this may just be me, I don't know. Here's a question out to all of you. I find it way easier to read comics and by and large enjoy comics as a whole if I'm allowed to laugh and joke and say, well, this comic's just dumb. It makes me feel much better. I know that probably sounds weird, but I feel better about the comics I'm reading. It doesn't feel like I have to be wrapped up and invested into loving every single panel, because the reality is there's a lot of silly nonsense in comics. Comics often are silly nonsense, sometimes by design, sometimes because there was a schedule crunch, sometimes because the people working on the comic have no idea what they're doing. Lots of reasons why it could be nonsense. That doesn't mean it has to be. Anything more than that. But I don't know. I'm brought up to it because every now and then I will go either here or I'll go on social media and I'll post a panel, and it's amazing the people who cannot handle it. Same thing with that the mutants are not a good analogy for a marginalized race. I had some people it's the mail you get, and some in the comments, but like this guy's like, I was so horrified by your comments, I have unsubscribed and I will never follow your content again. It's like, I mean, okay. If you're that wrapped up in it, you're kind of doing me a gift by moving on to someone else to be crazy with. I mean, they're just opinions. You take them, you leave them. Like, there's 0 people on this channel that agree with everything I say, and thank goodness for that. Like I get really like the people who weird me out the most are people like, I believe everything you say. You are the perfect person to that. Like, nope, that's somebody who's lying. Not true. Anyway, what do you do? So what do you do? You find some comic panel, you find something that is kind of absurd or silly. Like, is the right answer now that you just kind of have to, like, well, I can't share it with anyone else because if I share it, then somebody will think I'm being mean, and then they'll be offended, and they won't know what to do, and then the world will collapse in an endless pile of blah 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 blah. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Thank you for everybody who's done that. I appreciate talking with all of you. It's fun comic shop chat. What can I say? Thanks for listening.